It's a quotation from Barack Obama's interview, which he gave somewhere in 2023, just before general election of India. What did he say? Minorities are oppressed in India. Ethnic minorities, religious minorities, caste minorities, everybody is oppressed in India. And whole lot of people in India, journalists, newspapers, media, just telecasted it everywhere. We liked buttons when somebody shared it on Facebook. We said yes, yes, yes to Instagram posts and whatnot. We imagine, we think taking bribe, alignment taking 100 rupees, or a Xerox man taking 50 rupees is what corruption is. No, that is not what corruption is. When a European uses the word corruption, when for 1000 years the rulers talked about dirty India or lazy Indians, they didn't talk about one single incident, 10 incidents here and there. So these images, that is the second level where to start realizing, is not about a few cases of bribery. It is something more than that, very big than that. When we talk about corruption in India, there's just one image I'm taking. We can do the same kind of exercise about any image. When the Western media, when the Western scholars and Indian scholars talk about India is corrupt, they are not making the statement about individual bribes. They are talking about an entire nation, an entire culture. Namaskar, सब लोगों को. I know the difficulty of sitting through a long talk and listening to a talk after the talk like Rahulji's is difficult. So I'll come straight to the point. First, pranam to Swamiji again. एंड भारतीय विद्या केंद्र का दो प्रोफेसर हैं हमारे साथ बीच में, उनको भी प्रणाम. राहुल जी को प्रणाम. सी आज का मेरा टॉपिक क्या है? साइंटिफिक काइंड्स, द इमेजेस ऑफ इंडिया. इफ यू कीप रीडिंग द मीडिया, newspaper, etc., you'll see there are a lot of images of India. That India is corrupt, that India is minority people in India are oppressed. There's full of caste system here. These kinds of images. Women are oppressed here. It's about these images that I want to talk to you. I must warn you first, or two things. One, I'm not a speaker. All my life, I only sat down somewhere in a corner, wrote, read, and taught as a teacher. Speaker, I am not. If you want to listen to a beautiful talk, go to Rahulji's talks. So, which means what? The responsibility is on you. Pay attention, listen to it, write down questions, ask questions at the end. If there is no time, write to me. I'll write back. You can find me. Just look for my name online. Either you will find me on LinkedIn or academia.edu. I'm not on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I think I'm too old for those things. So back to the topic. We are talking about the images of India, like India is corrupt, these kind of images. Since we are on the ground of BHU, let's wear our research hat a little bit. What do I want to show you is how do we think about these images? What do we do? Can we all think like researchers? What is the problem with these images? Think about it logically. Think of any small village or think of the BHU campus. Imagine everybody here becomes a thief tomorrow. Everybody starts stealing, everybody starts raping, a whole lot of problem starts occurring. How long do you think the BHU campus will survive? 2 years? 5 years? You're very generous. Maybe 10 years it will survive, not beyond that, right? How can a place survive where everybody is a thief, everybody is a rapist? You can't even walk out on the road. When we talk about India, we say India is full of corruption, India is full of caste system, women now don't feel safe here, minorities oppressed, and Indian civilization, Indian culture survived for 3000 years. How is that possible? One of the two things must be true. Either those statements are wrong or something called Indian culture, Indian traditions do not exist. So if we all live here, we all are part of this culture. The question then is, what's wrong with these images? What's happened? So I'll give you three steps that you can take in your own life, because there are no research reports which you can go read and find out whether these images are right or wrong. There is no big scholar in India, in the world, anywhere, who will teach you at every walk, at every step of your walk, who will come and tell you, no, this image is wrong, this image is wrong. That's not going to happen. You have to become that researcher. So step when when you see these kind of problems, ask the first question. When you talk about, ask this question, do the numbers hold? When you see any image, take the image like India is corrupt. Maybe you don't see there from there. It's taken from some Ramana media network. I didn't create it. When we say India is corrupt, these are the kind of things we go around saying. What 15 years ago, I think some IAS officer retired said every third Indian is corrupt. 33% Indians are corrupt. 50% Indians are borderline corrupt. That was a statement he had made. And these things we keep hearing. There is also CPI index, the corruption perception index, which always places India somewhere below the 50% top countries. When you see these kind of images, ask the first question, do the numbers hold? What does it mean? If I am making this statement that every third Indian is corrupt, and in my family there are three people, my wife, my kid, and me. My kid is 7th standard kid. Realistically speaking, I can't say he's corrupt. मतलब नहीं रहता है ना. And I'm making the statement. Obviously, I have to leave myself out, whether I say it or not. Because even if I say, no, I was corrupt once upon a time, etc., still because I'm aware of it now and I'm presenting in front of you, automatically I'm left out. Means what? My wife is corrupt. Or there are many young people here. You may be living with your parents, old father and old mother. So you have to leave yourself out. Now, between your father and mother, take a pick. Who would you leave out? Who will you call corrupt? Mother? So this is the problem which we don't even realize when we make and accept these kind of statements. Take the next one. Maybe you will not be able to read it. It's a quotation from Barack Obama's interview, which he gave somewhere in 2023, just before general election of India. What did he say? Minorities are oppressed in India. Ethnic minorities, religious minorities, caste minorities, everybody is oppressed in India, and a whole lot of people in India, journalists, newspapers, media, just telecasted it everywhere. We liked buttons when somebody shared it on Facebook. We said yes to Instagram posts and whatnot. Can you imagine what is the problem with this in terms of data? Do the numbers hold question? What's the problem with this? Can you guess for a minute? Say, I'm a Christian by birth, brought up as a Christian. As we go to church, so I have some edge to talk about minority oppression in India. But I won't give you anecdotes. We'll do the mathematics, as we say, back of the envelope mathematics. Let's count 150 crore Indians. Leave out all the ethnic minorities. I don't know who counts as ethnic minorities. Maybe all Northeast and some tribes in South, etc. Nilgiri, the tribes living in Nilgiri or Kurgis, these kind of people. Let's say they're about 10%. So 10% left out of 150 crore. Now we have to leave out all caste minorities. SC, ST, OBC. Kitna jayega? Any idea what's the population count of SC, ST, OBC? About 60%. So you leave out 60 plus 10, 70% gone. You have to leave out religious minorities now. Muslims, Christians, Parsis, Jains, doesn't matter who you count them in. Another 20%. So kitna gaya total? About 90% gone. What is left? 10% Indian population. Wait, mathematics is even more shocking than this. 10% bachai. That 10%, you have to leave out all the kids. You're not going to say my 6th standard kid is an oppressor. Unless you make some big theories. Leave out the kids. 3%. Leave out the sick people, old people, hospital, अपाहिज लोग वगैरह वगैरह उनको छोड़ दो. And if you're coming from one stream of thinking, feminism, you have to leave out many women also in that from that. So बचता क्या है? 3%, 2%. If you're very generous, let's say 3% Indians are left, which means what? Basically, upper caste, working, tax paying Brahmins. So, are we saying for 3,000 years, these 3% Indians have oppressed an entire population in India? We didn't even think of these things. We just accepted Barack Obama's talk. It was our Facebook status. It was our WhatsApp forward. It was our Instagram. Go back and check how many thousands of likes have been, hearts have been pressed on them. Third thing that Rahul has been persuading me to talk about, and I'm very hesitant because certain topics are very sensitive in India. Caste system is one of them. I'll still not talk about it, but I'll give you some ideas. No matter where, he gave you already example about Brahmins. I just gave another aspect of it. Caste system problem. Think about it from wherever, whichever end. I co-edited a book which Pandeji was referring to, Western Foundations of India, and the first part of it, which is the article that I co-wrote, is about do the numbers hold? The way we talk about caste oppression in India is to say one whole set of people have been oppressed by a small minority, right? There's a data that is available by the government, done by the police department called NCRB data. Go there, open any years of data and check which community faces highest amount of oppression in India. You do the math. I've done it. After you do the math, go to the book, open the book, read that article that I have written about the caste. Right. Take a fourth example. We'll move ahead. Women's oppression in India. I won't say more. I'll leave the topic to you to do the maths, but I'll just tell you one thing about it. There's a movie that became a semi-hit a few years ago, Padman. When I think about the title, I feel really ashamed. What is the movie saying? For 3,000 years, 4,000 years, women in India didn't know about hygiene. Is that what the movie is saying? Why did it even become a hit in India? Why did we like the movie? It made 100 crore in India, 100 crore abroad. When people sitting in Japan, China, where it became very popular, saw this movie, what did they think? And we are happy that it made 100 crore abroad. Anyway, there is a first stage. When you encounter these kind of images, ask the first question, do the numbers hold? And you will realize numbers don't hold. Then the next stage, which is very important for you, if the numbers don't support it, why do these images persist? Why do we think India is corrupt? See, no matter how much data about caste system, minority oppression, women's oppression, I lay in front of you on charts after charts, table after table, it will stop there, and after half an hour, you go back and you will like some image, some post on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook, which will say something like this. So the question is, if the numbers don't hold, why do these images persist? I know some of you probably at the moment is thinking, I don't subscribe to these images. Only one section, one ideological group subscribes to this. Yeah, I know which number or name will you put to that ideological group. But I want to tell you, it's not that simple. If another civilization, if another culture has ruled us for 1,000 years, we have been colonized by two cultures, if you don't know. One is the Islamic culture and then the Britishers. If they are able to colonize us for 1,000 years, these images have played a role there. So how these images are so powerful, they penetrate across ideological boundaries. The only difference is somebody will have contempt for India and say, I don't want to live here, it is so corrupt, so this then that, I want to leave India and go abroad. Another person will say, बहुत दिल जलता है यार when I see this kind of corruption in India. I want to do something for India. But end of the day, both of them think, both of them perpetuate the same image that India is corrupt. That is the power of these images. That is why we have to think about it. But I'll also tell you one more thing. If you have some affection for India, love for India, that is where the difference becomes, the difference will become apparent. If you have some love for India, a difference happens. You start wondering somewhere, someday, one day, there's something wrong with these images. And this it opens up cracks. These are the cracks through which your research will happen. Your life as an Indian will emerge. If you have this affection for India, when you go abroad, for example, you will see, "Ah, but everybody takes bribes in the US also. What are those lobby groups there? Legalized bribe groups? Everybody takes up bribes in Europe also. Or at least they legalize bribe." See, I was a young student. I studied in Bangalore for a long time, and I used to have this problem. If there's a long traffic jam, and you know Bangalore is famous for traffic jams, so the auto will stop somewhere, the meter will stop. But after I get off, the auto driver will say, "Sir, meter traffic jam tha, I had to stop there my auto, so please give me 10 rupees extra, 50 rupees extra, whatever." And I used to get very agitated. Means I didn't create the traffic jam. Why are you asking me to pay for it? All right. I went to Europe. I hired a taxi from there. I didn't know how to take bus at that time. First trip from railway station to my hostel, I took a taxi, and then he started the meter, and I was really shocked. The meter never stopped, whether there's a traffic, whether there's a signal, whether there's so basically what happened, the difference that I saw there, in India, for the small amounts of money, there is no bill to show. It's not legalized. In Europe, this is legalized. See, don't mistake me. I'm not saying taking bribe, etc., is a valid thing, and poor people, they should do. No, they should be, they should be stopped. It's wrong, it's unethical, etc. But the difference is, we imagine, we think taking bribe, a lineman taking 100 rupees, or a Xerox man taking 50 rupees is what corruption is. No, that is not what corruption is. When a European uses the word corruption, when for 1000 years the rulers talked about dirty India or lazy Indians, they didn't talk about one single incident, 10 incidents here and there. So these images, that is the second level where to start realizing, is not about a few cases of bribery. It is something more than that, very big than that. Moving to the third section, you have to, once you start seeing that these problems with bribery, etc., this corruption, etc., there's some number problem there, and you start asking the question, why don't why do this images stick if they don't have numbers? Something that you have to realize, these images are not based on any numbers. That's what I was saying. Some people take bribery is not the foundation for the image that India is corrupt. It resonates with our experience. We believe somewhere in our heart that Indians are corrupt. In the sense, every time I made this kind of presentation, either in my class or to in my workshops, the first thing or some of the kind of comments that I got, probably many of you are already thinking about these comments, is, have you been to Dunkin, sir? Have you been to any government office ever? Do you know how it functions there? Have you ever paid any bribe to any officer there? Probably you're a professor sitting in a university. No, I'm not a professor sitting in a university, but that apart, that is the kind of comments that I used to give. Means what? These images stick because it's part of our experience. We think, yes, India is corrupt. And then you start giving anecdotes after anecdotes. The lineman took, the auto guy charged me, etc. So, auto guy charged me extra here also coming from Europe, from your airport. So, that doesn't mean India is corrupt. What's happening here? The crack that has opened, let's widen it a little bit. Let's go to the next stage. Take this example that India is corrupt. You're all behaving like researchers, I hope. standing on the ground of BHU, very tight. Let's go move ahead and ask the image. India is corrupt. How do we prove this image? I'll give you all the fund you need. Imagine all the number of people that you want as assistants to help you. How do you go and prove it? You have to prove that India is corrupt. What do you do? If you can show that all Indians take bribes, then you have proved the statement. But is it possible? Not possible. It is not about how many people are helping you, how much fund you have, etc. But it is not humanly possible that everybody takes bribe. That is not the case. My mother has never taken bribe, for example. Can you show that no Indian take bribe? Not true. We have paid bribe in our own life. If maybe in some cases we have taken also. Can you show all Westerners take bribes? Not possible. Same. Can you show that no Westerner take bribes? That is also not possible. The question comes back then. If these are not the kind of numbers which are underlying the idea that India is corrupt, what is at the foundation of it? I told you it resonates with our experience, but we have to give formulation to that experience. Let's move to next slide. Look at this sentence. This is how we speak about corruption in India. Corruption continues to grow in India because more and more people are encouraged to become corrupt. This is a kind of sentence we say, right? And think about corruption. How do we speak about it? One of the examples that somebody gave me in my workshop. सर ये हमारे खून में है, आपको पता है कैसे बात करते हैं माँ बाप अपने बच्चों से? पापा आने से पहले खा लेना वरना बहुत डांट पड़ेगी। माँ को मत बताना। तो वरना बहुत मार खाओगे तुम आज। सर हम बचपन से सुनते आते हैं ऐसे। दिस इज हाउ वी टीच आवर किड्स। Hold your thoughts for a moment. What are we saying when we say these kind of sentences? We are saying, in some sense, this corruption is in our bones, is in our culture. It's a part of our life. It's part of our civilization. This is how we speak. So it's not about one person taking bribe. It's about accepting. It's about saying that this corruption is part of our system. Remember, how do we speak in the media? Corruption is systemic. That is the word we use. What does it mean? What is systemic about corruption in India? Let's go ahead. There's something that you have to understand. When we talk about corruption in India, there's just one image I'm taking. We can do the same kind of exercise about any image. When the Western media, when the Western scholars and Indian scholars talk about India is corrupt, they are not making the statement about individual bribes. They are talking about an entire nation, an entire culture. I did a small exercise. Have you heard about Google Books Ngram Viewer? Have you used it? Ngram Viewer? It is a facility that Google provides you where you can search for a word or a phrase and it scans through all the millions of books that it has scanned or the website that it has cached, and it finds where the word occurs, where the word, when it started, how it went up, its popularity based on the way it has been used in all the books that it has scanned, etc. The first thing I searched is India is corrupt, the blue line. Imagine the graph. The first time there was only blue line, India is corrupt. So that's the first word I put there, India is corrupt. So you get an idea. I have given you a screenshot of only between 2020 and 2020 of 20 years. I put England is corrupt. Goes way below. There's hardly anything. US goes up for various reasons. US is not, is a mix of many people there, so it's not one culture like like England or India, etc. So there are, and even there, it also gives links to the books where the word or the phrase has occurred. You click those phrases, and you will see that the way they talk about America is corrupt is very different from the way they talk India is corrupt. Anyway, we'll not go in that direction. What I'm showing is, when they say India is corrupt, It is not about 10 people taking bribes or one auto guy charging you extra. It is about an entire nation. It's an entire culture. So I made the final letter that I wrote is Pakistan is corrupt. There is no entry for that in Gram for the last 50 years. Can you understand? If you don't understand now that it is not about two bribes cases in India, it's about an entire civilization, you will not understand it. That is the jump that I have to make. I searched for the same words. Italy is corrupt, France is corrupt, Germany is corrupt. The entries are so few that it doesn't even come up on them on your graph. So numbers don't hold, but it is not the numbers that the images are based on, but it is on our experience. And this experience somehow links corruption to summarize what we have said so far. These images are based on some kind of statements about an entire civilization, entire culture, entire nation. So that is this images. That is why, that is how we use it. And that is why they are powerful also. If you dig further into it, then you'll start understanding that this image has its foundations in the way colonialism spoke about India. And when I say colonialism, I'm not talking about only British colonialism. I'm also talking about Muslim colonialism. I have worked on it. My papers are there online. Go back and check. The way they started speaking about Brahmins, for example, in 800, 700, etc., is very different at the beginning. They thought of them, they used to call them Barahima. So they used to think of him as intellectuals. Somewhere in the 10th century, 11th century, Al-Biruni comes and the discourse completely shifts. Suddenly, for why it happens, I have no idea. That is requires another kind of research that I have yet to do. Somebody who was intellectual, some nation which was very popular among the early Muslim scholars, suddenly becomes a nation which is very bad. Brahmins becomes bigots, they can become oppressive people. So Hinduism, the idea that there is one religion in India that is Hinduism and it is corrupt and it is bad emerges there. It is this religion, one religion, Islam, and later Christianity, thought of Hinduism as a corrupt religion. If there is a corrupt religion, the culture that emerges from it, the nation that emerges from it, that the nation that is built on it has to be corrupt. That is the foundation of these images. The foundation of these images are not 10 people taking bribes in India. That is what Indians have done to it. We took those images very happily, put it on our Facebooks and on our Instagrams, etc., and provided 10 examples from our auto guy, from line man, etc. I'll not go further from there. I'll stop. I'll give you two examples before I stop. This is first example. This is from a CBSE Value Education Guidebook for Teachers, current one. You will find it online. Teachers supposed to do these exercises with the kids of 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th standard. What is exercise? They are supposed to have a class discussion on the topic what? Corruption is the norm and therefore should be accepted. When I first saw it, it really shocked me because I have a kid who will be in the same standard very soon. And he's supposed to go there and defend. You know how debating competition happens, right? Elocution competition. Half of the group will say yes and defend it. Another half of the group will say no and they will defend their point. Imagine the half of the group. Imagine my son is there in the half of the group. What are we teaching the kid? That go and defend that India is, what corruption is the norm here? What is the norm there? Is norm has a very, very powerful meaning in the Western culture. But most probably this Indian textbook writer have no clue what norm means. They basically just use it to mean normal. So corruption is normal. My son is supposed to stand in front of the class and defend his tendencies. This is how we are teaching kids to say that India is corrupt. It pains me when I say that. I pay 3 lakhs, 4 lakh rupees for this education and my son goes and learns these things. Incapable people are teaching in our classes, are creating textbooks, etc. So what kind of exercise can you do? I'll give an example from my own workshop. See, I have taught for many years. And I taught in an unorthodox atmosphere, which means I was not an appointed teacher anywhere. We used to run a research center. So we used to teach even +2 kids, which teach graduation kids, PhD students, postdoc, professionals. Everybody used to come for workshops, but not in the together, but in different workshops. There's one exercise that I used to do with the +2 kids in my college. They used to come for this workshop. The exercise is take the chapters from 8th, 9th, 10th textbooks, state board, CBSE, whatever, that is handy. The chapters on the last 300, 400 history of India on the one side, on the history of Europe on the other side. I used to take very small groups of 15, 20, 20 or 25 students and divide them into two groups. One group will deal with India. They will only read the chapters on India. The other group will read the chapters on Europe. Question to them. What is the question? I would give them an outline of a map of Europe to one group which is dealing with Europe, outline map of India to the other group. Every time in the chapters that have been given to you, whether it's Europe or India, if there is something negative about that part preferred, put a black bindi on the map. If there's something positive said about that place, put a green bindi on it. See, green has a positive meaning in my family, my culture, my part of the region, because my mother, she doesn't have a photo for wedding, but she got married into a very, even though as a Christian, but all our traditions, rituals are all very local, regional. So for her wedding, the only thing she remembers, she was very young, is that she was completely green. Green bindi, green clip, green sari, green blouse, everything was green. That is how she remembers. So that is green for me. So this is the exercise. European group. It's very easy for them because if you remember your own textbooks, everything nice in the world is created by Europeans. From steam engine to good music to good books, science, art, doesn't matter what you think about it. Everything is created by the map. It's very easy to create map. Come to the other group, the Indian group. It always used to create problem. They will have debates. They'll come and ask me 200 times the questions. I have to resolve them. By then the European group has finished. I had to manage them. Otherwise, the young kids, they start making noise, creating problems for me for the session. So I had to get rid of them. I had to send them out. Go and take break. You keep whatever you have done, keep here, go out, take break. And the Indian group, I used to attend them. A student will come and ask, Sir, Raja Ram Mohan Roy has fought against Sati system in India. Is it a positive statement or a negative statement? Some kid will state it's positive. Other kids will say it's negative. Why is it positive? I would ask them. Sir, somebody has fought against such a big problem. I'd ask the other kid, why are you objecting to it? Sir, but it is saying that there is Sati problem in India. It should be negative, isn't it? How is it positive? If I say in your family, forbid it happens, but imagine I say in your family, your mother beats your father. Is it a positive statement or a negative statement? Every day she beats. It is that kind of statement. So, it may be saying something nice about one person called Rajaram Mohan Roy, but it's saying negative things about entire culture, entire nation, entire civilization. So don't put green bindi, put a blank bindi there. So debate used to go on for 10, 15, 15 minutes. If there's something which is both positive and negative somehow, so what do we do, sir? Okay, cut the bindi, put half and green and half black. All right, 15, 20 minutes ho gaya. Everybody has done their exercises. Now the group will send their leaders to present in front of the class. The European group will come, open the map. There's only green bindis there, no black bindis. I've never found one. If you find ever one, let me know. The other group will present the Indian map. There was never one green bindi there. That is India for me. The images that we have accepted and perpetuate when we put it on our Facebook, on our Instagram, this is what we are doing. Bharat Mata Ko. We are putting black bindis, not even a single green bindi. Think about it. I'll leave you with that image. I have cut short my talk, but if we meet again, I'll elaborate on many other points. Thank you.
Do you have any questions related to this talk? You can ask Dewan ji and Dunkin ji.
You showed that your Engram book, you suggested that the corruption in American context probably made something else. And in that sense, you have some data which can differentiate between these type of corruptions, which are probably monetary related, and some other forms of corruptions. Do you have some notion about like how we view ourselves and how Westerners used to think about us?
See, the way I understand your question, it will take us in a direction which probably there's not enough time, but I'll give you hints about it. The word corruption is from Christian theology, where you talk about the corruption of souls. You talk about corruptio. So, a person, there are two processes. One is when the person is getting converted, there's a convertio, and then there are these problems. Something happens, it doesn't happen, which means the person does not move in the direction of God. So that becomes corruption. That is the corruption that we think about in the Western context. So that is the image which can be applied by a religion only to a rival religion. So if in Christianity speaking, only and only non-Abrahamic religions are corrupt religions, which is Hinduism. So the numbers don't matter there. To the other part of the question, can we make a survey and find out that more bribes are taken in the US than in India or the other way around? If that's the part of the question, no. So then this is the basic crux. The problem that Indians face, we don't understand Christian theology. We don't understand, therefore, Christian history, European history, and we assume we understand what people are saying when they say India is corrupt. They say are talking about an entire religion. They're talking about something which we don't have any idea. The force that is behind the word corruption, the behind the word moral, etc., which doesn't get translated into Indian languages at all. So we have no clue. To give you a very not a very good example, for a simple example, if somebody takes bribes, imagine an auto guide cheats you somehow and takes 50 rupees extra from you. We don't talk about the guy as a महापापी है वो, दुष्ट है वो, घोर पापी है, घोर अन्याय किया ऐसे. That's not how we speak about it. We say, yeah, कितना नीच आदमी है. Maybe we'll give a gali which I don't want to give here in the public, and then move away. We think of it as a bad thing. We think of it as unethical. But the force with which it is described when it is about an entire culture and nation is not the force with which we think about a incident of bribery. So I don't know whether I answered your question or not.
Like we have this Kaliyug concept, right? Kaliyug concept, yes. So what happens is that is also self-revealing. Like, कलयुग है, घोर कलयुग है, यहाँ तो सब कुछ ऐसा ही इमेज्ड हो गया है. इस प्रकार का इमेज अपना और उसमें बहुत सारे हमारे धर्म ग्रंथ भी इसको एक प्रकार से स्वीकार भी करते हैं. और वर्तमान में जो कुछ भी जो आपकी जो डेटा है जो भारत ने मीडिया पे इस प्रकार से तो उसका कोई संबंध करप्शन एक आप जो मॉनिटरी जो है थोड़ी कल्प विषय भारत में 15% विस्फोटता है कभी वगैरह जो पाई सुख. परंतु इसके अतिरिक्त इस प्रकार का जो कलयुग वाली जो बातें हैं और मलिनीकरण है सभी से उसका कोई अपने पास क्या उसमें परिवर्तन आ रहे हैं क्या?
This is India is changing. I don't want to speculate because I haven't done research. I shouldn't speak about it.
So मेरा जैसे क्वेश्चन इससे आपने कहा कि कॉस्ट ऑपरेशन इज जस्ट अ परसेप्शन गेम और रियलिटी, एंड इफ इट इज अ परसेप्शन गेम व्हाट अबाउट गांधी, फोले एंड अम्बेडकर्स फाइट अगेंस्ट इट?
Yes, many people, these eminent people thought India is corrupt and they fought against it. But you're a researcher. You should be objective, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether it is Gandhi standing in front of you or Einstein, if you have your research and you have your data and hypothesis well set, then question anybody. We come from a culture where we question even our gods. So why worry about a Gandhi? So if you think you have data, your hypothesis is right, then ask the question to anybody and everybody. Doesn't matter. Because we are ultimately talking about India and Indian culture. That is the most important for us, right? Not people will come and go. Think about the culture.
प्रणाम और बहुत अच्छा लगा सुन के और आप सबका विचारधारा को। मेरा नाम कामयाम दुख है। हम अभी इंग्लैंड में जन्म लिया था, अभी काशी में देते हैं। जब करप्शन की बात आती है तो मुझे एक विचार आता है कि भारत क्यों ये सब देश से अलग है, और वो है कि जो भारत में जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, अभी नाम है इंग्लिश गोइंग टू ब्रेक डाउन right. The reason that India is completely different from all these countries in my view is because the whole point of the Bharatiya worldview is to take an individual out of the corruption, which is the moh maya of the sansar and the vasanas within themselves, and not a single other country gives us the system towards self-realization. And so that's why I also feel that the situation in India is a little more difficult, because the corruption is very visible on your face. But I think the reason that we fail is because we have not made enough effort to link that internal pathway towards purification of consciousness and connection with nature. And we have confined the Bharatiya worldview to the domain of the left brain thinking, which is also a form of colonization, which is intellect, logic, debate, scriptures. But if you see now कि जो परिवर्तन आ रहा है दुनिया में, कि हर एक देश इकोलॉजिकल बनना चाहते कि हर एक देश माइंडफुलनेस, नेचुरल है, ये सब के ऊपर बात कर, ये सब भारतीय संस्कृति में ही रूटेड है। तो जैसे कि राहुल जी ने बताया कि सेल्फ फुलफिलिंग प्रोफेसी, तो ये जो हम ग्राफ पे भी देख रहे हैं, वो हमारा स्क्रिप्चर बोलते कि ग्राफ एग्जिस्ट भी नहीं करता रहे, वो अपना अंतकाल से हम ग्राफ को पैदा कर दे, बाहर की दुनिया अंदर के द्वारा से पैदा होता है। तो ये मुझे एक विचार आता है कि ऐसा कोई एफर्ट है जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस को ज़्यादातर रिचुअलिस्टिक और स्पिरिचुअल और इंटरनल वर्क के द्वारा हम अपना ये कनेक्शन को और मजबूत बना पाए, ताकि ये करप्शन का इशू नंबर्स का तो बात है ही, लेकिन from my perspective it's also about how do we shift our consciousness. So that is one idea and one question I have, open question. And other idea is I think that's it. Thank you so much.
I must congratulate both the speakers for their wonderful presentations. In fact, you talked about basically you are suggesting new ways of doing India study. In fact, Mr. Balaganathan himself has a book on it, reconceptualizing India studies. And it's a very interesting way of looking at it. Whether we would privilege data, quote unquote, in our narratives or narrative setting programs, or experience, because for long in India, experience was always privileged. That is inner experience or outer experience. So that still remains a question, whether we would, like, why most of the Indians believe in their mind that there is corruption, because even the minor incident of corruption that they experience, they make it so big. And that's why there are two things that we need to focus on. One, representation or perception of India in the West, how India is being viewed by the Westerners. Of course, that's one way of looking at it. And the other is how Indians are looking at India for themselves. तो उसमें दो चीज़ समझ आती है। हम लोग को लगता है कि ठीक है, वहाँ तो इंडिया को देखते हैं कि नहीं भाई करप्ट कंट्री है और सारी चीज़ें बता रहे थे, लेकिन हम लोगों को भी थोड़ा सेल्फ क्रिटिकल होना पड़ेगा और देखना पड़ेगा, और ये देखना पड़ेगा करप्शन जो है वो एक बेसिकली ऑर्डिनरी इंडियंस में नॉट बी करप्ट। मोस्ट ऑफ अस, जैसे आपने पूछा ना कि ऑर्डिनरी इंडियंस में नॉट बी करप्ट, या बात कर रहे थे बॉर्डर लाइन करप्शन की, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात कर रहे थे। तो क्या कुछ क्लास का भी कनेक्शन है करप्शन से? इज देयर ए कनेक्शन बिटवीन करप्शन एंड क्लास, अपर क्लास, सो कॉल्ड एजुकेटेड क्लास, इलीट क्लास? जैसे अभी हम लोग को देखने में लग रहा है कि जितना ज़्यादा आदमी पढ़ा लिखा है उतना ज़्यादा ही वो करप्शन कर रहा है। तो लाइक इज देयर एनी, डू यू हैव एनी इनसाइट ऑन दिस connection between class and corruption in India?
See, I don't have anything about which class is corrupt and not corrupt. But what I'm trying to get across is very easily we use this word corrupt and we talk about India is corrupt, etc. We don't even understand what's happening. I'll give you an example to show you why we didn't understand. Every time something happens in India, one unfortunate case somewhere in India, or it's bribery or rape or whatever, we jump to talk about Indian culture. हाँ इंडिया में ऐसे ही होता है, India is corrupt, etc. Something happens in the West. Every other week we see that in the US, young kids are shot dead. Somebody takes the word. Never ever any media anywhere, nor your Facebook warriors, nobody talks about हाँ यूरोपियन कल्चर ही ऐसा है, अमेरिकन कल्चर ही ऐसा है. Nobody never say. Something happens in India, you go straight to talk about हाँ हिंदुइज्म ने सिखाया है. This is how Hinduism has taught us. You know, अभी थोड़ा कम हुआ है because of all kinds of political correctness, but others, that is the statement that we used to make until 10-15 years ago. So anything happens, whether it's world war, whether a crusade, we never said it all happened because of Christianity. Do you understand the difference what's happening? When something bad happens in the West, in Europe, in America, etc., they say we should go back and learn our own roots. We should go back and learn American values. We should go back and understand our Christianity. That is what the solution for all the problem is. Something happens in India, forget about talking about going back to our roots, going understanding our values. I showed you a valued education slide from our current CBSE textbook. What are they teaching you? They're teaching you exactly the opposite of it. That is the difference that I'm trying to get across here.
तो वहाँ मुझे समझ में आया ये जो पॉइंट बंकिम जी बोल रहे हैं कि कॉलोनाइजेशन इज़ नॉट अबाउट क्या कपड़े पहने हैं. मैं एक प्रेजेंटेशन में एक हिंदू राज्य पे मैंने एक प्रेजेंटेशन दी थी. वहाँ पर मेरे से पहले एक महाराज जी थे, उन्होंने आकर बोला और वो भारतीय लिबास में थे. उन्होंने कहा देखिए आप सब, हम लिबास ही नहीं पहनते हैं, भारतीय लिबास, और अपने आप को हिंदू बोलते हैं. मेरे लिए बड़ा एम्बैरेसिंग था. नेक्स्ट में ऐसा पहन के मुझे जाके हिंदू राज्य पे बात करनी थी. मैंने कहा लिबास तो शायद वेस्टर्न है मगर पूरा हिंदू हूँ. तो ये एस्टैब्लिश करके अपनी टॉक रखनी पड़ी. सूफिया जी से मैं ये सीखा, ये जो कॉलोनाइजेशन को हम कपड़ों पे रिड्यूस कर देते हैं, कॉलोनाइजेशन शायद वो नहीं है. कॉलोनाइजेशन किसी और का लेंस, किसी और के लेंस से अपने आप को देखना, ये कॉलोनाइजेशन है. अगर इस पर्सपेक्टिव से अगर देखें कि जैसे आपने कहा क्लास, जितने अमीर लोग हैं या जो भी ज़्यादा पढ़े लिखे हैं वो करप्ट हैं, मे बी शायद डंकिन जी इस बात को चैलेंज कर रहे हैं कि कोई भी अगर परसेप्शन है उसको सोचना पड़ेगा कि कहाँ से आ रहा है ये सीड कैसे हुआ, ये विचार में से
आ रहा है जजों के पास या इस ऑफिसर के पास कि यूपी में है, तो अब कुछ बताइएगा, सोचना पड़ेगा कि 15 करोड़ रुपये 14 करोड़ रुपये मिल रहा है तो ईमानदार आदमी घर से तो नहीं मिल रहा है. इसलिए सोचना पड़ जाता है कि अच्छा, मतलब वही बात कर, बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात कही. देखिए मैं आपके पास से पूरी तरह से इत्तेफाक रखता हूँ बिकॉज आई टीच इंग्लिश लिटरेचर एंड आई नो हाउ ब्रूटल यूरोपियन सोसाइटी वॉज वन टू द काइंड ऑफ conflicts between different sects of Christianity happen and how scientists and thinkers had to take back their statements. So I aware of all that. बस ये कहना है कि हम लोगों को अपने बारे में भी सोचना पड़ेगा, सर्किल होना पड़ेगा और ये देखना पड़ेगा कि हम एजुकेशन सिस्टम, जो आप भी वही बात कर रहे हो, ये एजुकेशन में हमारी कुछ प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं. सर बात कर रहे थे कि फैमिली जो यूनिट होती थी संस्कारों की, अगर हम उस पर वापस नहीं लौटते हैं या उससे उस तरह से नहीं सोचते तो फिर होने वाला नहीं. हम लोग चर्चा करते रहेंगे.
चेंज की बात कर रहे हैं तो चेंज तो पूरा स्टेट डिज़ाइन चेंज करना पड़ेगा, ऐसा मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है. सिर्फ इंस्टीट्यूशनल नहीं, स्टार्ट्स राइट विद द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बाय द वे इटसेल्फ. कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक टर्म यूज़ करता है डिनोमिनेशंस. सबरीमला का केस आप सबने सुना होगा. सबरीमला में एक मुस्लिम महिला सबरीमला मंदिर में एंटर करना चाहती थी. किस रीज़न से कि ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो रही है कि महिलाओं को, मेंस्ट्रुएटिंग विमेन को अंदर नहीं जाने दिया जाता. अब उस पहली बात, उनका रिलीजन से उनका कोई आस्था थी नहीं. सबरीमला में अयप्पा से कोई आस्था नहीं थी, बट कोर्ट ने अलाउ किया. क्यों अलाउ किया, मैं बाकी प्रॉब्लम्स में नहीं जा रहा हूँ, मगर डिनोमिनेशन वर्ड यूज़ करा. डिनोमिनेशन कहाँ से आता है? आयरिश कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से आता है. उससे हमारा क्या लेना देना है? डिनोमिनेशन क्रिश्चियनिटी में ऐसी रहती है कि अगर मैं एक जितनी भी, मुझे पता नहीं कितनी डिनोमिनेशंस हैं, बट सपोज अगर ब्रॉडली ले लें, अगर मैं प्रोटेस्टेंट हूँ तो मुझे कैथोलिक ग्रेवयार्ड भी नहीं मिलता, मगर क्या मैं शैवाइट हूँ, क्या मैं विष्णु मंदिर में नहीं जाता? ये वर्ड डिनोमिनेशन भारत में अप्लाई ही नहीं करता। यहाँ अब हिंदी में जो ट्रांसलेशन है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की, उसमें सांप्रदाय यूज़ करा है। अगर सांप्रदाय शब्द यूज़ करा जाता है सबरीमला के जजमेंट में, जो जजमेंट दिया वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं था, क्योंकि मैं तो 10 सांप्रदाय इकट्ठे फॉलो कर सकता हूँ। मैं शैवाइट वैष्णवाइट साथ में हो सकता हूँ एक साथ, प्लस मैं बुद्धा के मंदिर में जाकर ध्यान भी कर सकता हूँ, मैं एक चाइनीज़ देवता को भी जाकर दीप बत्ती दिखा सकता हूँ, मैं सब कुछ इकट्ठा हो सकता हूँ। ये शब्द तो प्रॉब्लम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से एमिनेट भी होती है, क्योंकि वर्ल्ड व्यू जो है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का, वो सारा का सारा एब्राहमिक है। वो कभी हमारे फॉर एग्जांपल इक्वालिटी जो अभी सर ने बताया, ये भारतीय आइडिया है ही नहीं। हमारे व्यवहार में इक्वालिटी पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, मगर एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का एक गोल सेट कर दिया गया है इक्वालिटी का, और इक्वालिटी केवल अपॉर्चुनिटी की नहीं, इक्वल आउटकम्स की। सारा रिजर्वेशन सिस्टम इक्वल आउटकम्स डिलीवर करने के लिए लगा हुआ है, जो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है। आप समझ रहे हैं बात? वो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, मगर क्यों ये हमने क्यों अपने सर पे सब मढ़ लिया है? बिकॉज हमने ब्रिटिश, आयरिश, अमेरिकन, फ्रेंच सब चेप के यहाँ पर ले आए और कहा अब हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पे काम करें। वर्ल्ड व्यू था ही नहीं अपना, इंडिक वर्ल्ड व्यू तो अप्लाई नहीं करा। भारतीय धर्मों का कहीं भी एक आत्मा है, वो एंडलेस जर्नी पे है। कभी वो ब्राह्मण बनती है, कभी शूद्र बनती है, कभी चांडाल बनती है, कभी कुछ बनती है, पता नहीं क्या है। उसको हमने सेगमेंट्स बनाए हुए हैं, बट एक ही आत्मा चलती रहती है ना। आप आजकल की अगर
और हर शरीर में
पवित्र
शरीर में उठती
आध्यात्मिक स्तर पे वो बराबर है, मगर व्यवहारिक स्तर पर वो अलग है। उस शरीर में उसका जो एक्सपीरियंस होना है वो अलग है। इसमें क्या परेशानी है? अगर यहाँ से हम अपना स्टेट डिज़ाइन करते, बिल्कुल ही अलग स्टेट बनाते हम।